जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna and welcome back. Thank you for joining. Today we are discussing verse number 46 of chapter number 2 from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And in the previous verses, Krishna is actually comparing the karma kanda, or is contrasting karma kanda and karma yoga. And in the last verse, verse number 45, Krishna is saying that the Vedas mainly deal with the subject matter of the three modes of material nature. So Krishna says Traigunya Vishaya Veda. So three modes or three qualities are the subject matter of the karma kanda section of the Vedas. And then Krishna is saying to Arjuna, "O Arjuna, you become transcendental to these three modes." What is becoming transcendental to these three modes mean? You go beyond these three modes, because these three modes are going to keep you within this material world. And then Krishna says that be free from all the dualities and from all anxieties of gain and safety, and be established in the self. So this is what Krishna is explaining to Arjuna in the previous verse, which we have discussed in the last session. And in the next verse, which is today's verse, Krishna is going to conclude the current topic of contrasting between Karma Kanda and Karma Yoga by giving an example from a Vedic cultural situation of wells and rivers. So here in this picture you see wells as well as you see the pictures of a river. So Krishna generally gives example from the nature or what we have experience with, so that we can understand this subject matter very properly. So let's read the verse. Chapter 2, verse number 46. Yavanartha udapane sarvata sampluto dake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. Translation is, all purpose served by a small well can at once be served by great reservoirs of water. Similarly, all the purpose of the Vedas can be served by one who knows the purpose behind them. So here we see that in the Vedic times, there were villages, and in the villages there were wells. Now there were wells for different purposes. So some well is for drinking water, some well is for washing clothes, some other well could be for washing utensils, like that. And then there were also rivers passing by nearby. So this particular example has been used to explain some philosophical point. So let's understand the Sanskrit terms. Yavanartha udapane. Udapane means, udapane is in the well water. And then Krishna is saying sarvataha means all the things that is small served by the small well, then it can be at once served by a great reservoir of body. So great reservoir of body over here is sampluto dake. So sampluto dake is some great reservoir of bodies, something like river. So whatever purpose that a well or different kinds of wells support or fulfill, that can be at once fulfilled by the great reservoir of water. So then Krishna says tavan sarveshu vedeshu. So similarly all the purpose of Veda is served by whom, or it can be at once served by brahmanasya vijanataha. So somebody who understand, or one who understand the supreme Brahman, they can at once know the purpose of what is being given in the Vedas. So Brahmana is not just by the caste. Brahmana is a person who understands Brahma, or Brahma janati iti Brahmana. So who understand the concept, or he is a transcendentalist. Let's understand that way. He is a transcendentalist. and that is a Brahmana. So what is being explained here in this verse? So let's see that Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna that the Vedas talk about three modes. First of all, he is talking about that. Krishna is explaining in the previous verse that Veda is talking about the three modes. So you go beyond these three modes. So Arjuna may argue that one is has to follow Vedic literature, and how can one reject Veda? So Krishna over here is telling to Arjuna to not give up Veda, but he is saying you go beyond Veda. You transcend the Karma Kanda section of Veda. So then how does one go beyond Veda? So then Krishna explains by this example that in Vedic times there were different kinds of wells serving different kinds of purposes. For example, well for washing clothes, well for washing utensils, well for taking showers, etc., etc. But if we use the water from the river, right, then all the purposes that could be served in this well, plus much more, can be taken care by the water which is constantly flowing through the river. So similarly, in Vedic rituals there are different types of things given. Like for example, for getting a son, you do this. For making money, you do this. For buying a house or having a house and other things, for enjoyment, do other things. So there are procedures given, right? There are rituals that are given, and when one follow those rituals, then what happens? That then they fulfill their desire by following the Vedic rituals. So all these rituals which are given in the Vedas, but what is the ultimate purpose of the Vedas? So the ultimate purpose of the Veda is to take everyone towards Krishna. So when one understands the ultimate purpose, then he understands why all these different Vedic rituals are given in Vedas. He doesn't give up them, but he doesn't give up those things, but he goes beyond that. He doesn't reject the Vedas, rather. He doesn't reject the Vedas, but he goes beyond that. So wells are there to serve different purposes, but the river can take care of all the needs because there is so much water in it, right? So similarly, Vedas gives different injunctions for different specific purposes, but what is ultimate purpose is Krishna is knowing Krishna, which Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15 verse 15. So the purpose of knowing Veda is to know him. Vedescha sarver ahamev vedya. And Krishna is saying that the entire purpose of the Veda is to know him, love him, and then go back to Godhead or go back to him. So Krishna is indicating that the real purpose of the Veda is not within the three modes. It is beyond the three modes. And you have to seek that. So you have to expand your thought process and not just focus on the material enjoyment. Because material enjoyment is binding. It's binding in nature. It is going to keep you in the material world for long period of time. So when you seek or when you seek that Brahman or Brahma knowledge, then you are Brahmanasya, Vijanataha. In other words, the Brahmana is a one who knows everything. So Krishna is trying to say that to Arjuna that you rise above these three modes and don't focus on different things that are given in the Karma Kanda section of Vedas. Of course, here in this picture only one well is shown, but there are different wells in the village, and that can be compared as the Karma Kanda of the Vedas. And then this is the Jnana Kanda and Upasana Kanda. So when you understand or when you know Jnana Kanda and Upasana Kanda or Bhakti from the Vedas, then whatever purpose this is resolving is actually, it can resolve all the purpose which can be done through this well. So this has much more capacity, and it can give you much more because the river water is constantly flowing, right? So that's what Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna. So in this section we will see, you have seen that Krishna has contrasted between Karma Kanda and Karma Yoga, and explained how the results of the Karma Kanda are temporary in nature, and then it is also not only temporary but it is binding. You just repeat the cycle of birth and death, and that of the Karma Yoga are eternal, and it is non-binding, it doesn't bind you, and one needs to have a one-pointed intelligence in order to execute the Karma Yoga, in contrast to the Karma Kanda where the intelligence is multi-branched. So Karma Kanda will gradually take you beyond the three modes of material nature towards the eternal destination. So that is what is the understanding of this particular verse. Now let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to explain in the purport of this verse. So Prabhupada says that purpose of Karma Kanda divisions of Vedas. The rituals and sacrifice mentioned in the Karma Kanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. So Karma Kanda also has its significance, because somebody who doesn't know anything and they are attached to matter, and if you tell them that okay, you have to give up everything, so that is very difficult for that person to understand. But if the person follows the Vedas and follows the teachings of the Vedas and then perform all this Karma Kanda ritual, so then inherently they get the information that there is a life after this particular life and we can enjoy more, and then something like that. And when they start performing those rituals, and the Brahmanas who are performing the rituals, they explain them the purpose of the Vedas, that Karma Kanda is not everything, there is much more beyond to it, then that person might get also attracted to the other part of the Vedas, the Jnana Kanda and the Upasana Kanda. But the purpose of the Veda is to help everyone from whatever stage of life a person is, bring them as much as possible closer to the spiritual life. That is the purpose of the Veda. So therefore people will anyway enjoy. So what Vedas is doing, okay, you want to enjoy, then you follow the Vedas. So at least you are following Vedas to enjoy. So there is some surrender to Vedic literature. And when the person, they seek for their desires and they fulfill it, then they understand, okay, there is more to it. So they might show interest in reading other sections of the Vedas. So this is how the Vedas are designed, to gradually bring everyone to spiritual life. Now, here it is, the first part is Karma Kanda. The purpose of Karma Kanda is gradual development of self-realization. Now what is the purpose of self-realization? So that Prabhupada says, and the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, 15th verse. Krishna is saying, the purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So this is the entire purpose or the goal of self-realization. When we want to become self-realized, right, what does it mean? So we need to know the highest thing. And what is the highest thing given in the Vedas? Krishna, the highest thing given in the Vedas is to know Krishna. Vedescha sarver ahameva vedya. After studying all the Vedas, Krishna is saying, I am to be known, or he is to be known. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relation with him. So in the introduction we discussed this point in details, that this self-realization has three parts: Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. So Sambandha means understanding my relationship with Krishna, and understanding or who is Krishna, who am I, and what is my relationship. That is Sambandha. Second is Abhideya. Abhideya is a process to revive the relationship which is broken right now. So that is abhidaya, and the prayojana means the goal. So goal is love for Krishna. The relationship of the living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter, 7th verse. The living entities are parts and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. So this is our position, who we are in relation with Krishna. So that is given by Krishna in 15th chapter 7th verse. Krishna is saying, Mameva ansha jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, mama eva ansha. Means the living entities are my parts and parcel. Mama eva ansha is very parts. They are my parts. So right now we have forgotten our relation with Krishna. So that's why the living entity are part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfection stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 3, Canto 3, Chapter 33, verse number 7 as follows. Aho bata sapako to gariyan yad jiva gre vartate nam tubhyam tepus tapaste juhuvuhu sasnurarya brahmanuchur nama krinanti yete. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala or dog eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such person must have performed all kinds of penance and sacrifice according to Vedic rituals and studied the Vedic literatures many times after taking his bath in all holy places of pilgrimage. Such person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So what is trying to say that there is no condition to approach Krishna. We may be born in any kind of family. It may be a lowest of the low. So birth is not the criteria, because birth is the birth of the body, but the soul is Satchidananda, as we have studied earlier. Krishna has said the soul is eternal and soul is Satchidananda. So the soul might have taken birth in some low family. So that doesn't disqualify anyone from becoming Krishna Bhakta. So, and we have seen from the example of Lord Ram, he has accepted even animals, as like the monkeys were his soldiers actually. So he has accepted service from even the monkeys, the spiders, the squirrels, or any kind of living entity. So that is not a disqualification that you take birth in or you have taken birth in a low family, then person cannot do bhakti. So that is wrong. It is, according to this verse, anybody who, even if it is from a Chandala family, he is at the highest platform of self-realization if that person has performed or his person is chanting the holy name of the Lord. So continuing, then what should we do? So Prabhupada says, so one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdom for better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the Vedic rituals, rules and regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor it is possible to study all the Vedanta and Upanishad thoroughly. So what should we do? We should become intelligent and we should know the purpose of the Veda, which is already given in Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of the Veda is to know Krishna. And when we know Krishna, then we should not desire or aspire to go to the heavenly planets, because heavenly planets, all the devatas, they live there. And even if we go to the heavenly planets, then we go for a very short period of time. Later on, we are going to study or understand the day of Brahma. And when we understand the day of Brahma, then we will understand that how much is the ruling period of a devata. It's very small, It's very, very small. So that much time a person is allowed to live in the heavenly kingdom. Like our life is 100 years. So similarly, the Devata also have their lifespan. And when we go to the heavenly planet, we live up to the lifespan of that Devata. Then we again come back to the earthly planet. So what is the use of going to the heavenly planet for temporary enjoyment? Again we have to come back here and again start from zero. So that's why Prabhupada says that one should never be desiring to elevate to the heavenly kingdom. Then the other point Prabhupada is saying, it is not possible for a man in this age to follow the Vedic rituals because these rules and regulations are very strict. And then there are a lot of penances one has to do, or a lot of austerities one has to follow. So nor there are any brahmanas who can perform these rituals perfectly. And if it is not done correctly, you don't get the results. So all the hard work done is all waste. So here he's saying that it requires a lot of time, energy, knowledge, resources to execute the purpose of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in the age of Kali. Earlier in the previous age, in the Dwapar Yuga or in the Treta Yuga, those things were possible. But in Kali Yuga, it is very difficult. So what is best thing in the age of Kali? That is described here. Sankirtan Yagna. Fulfill all the purpose of Vedas. The best purpose of Vedic literature is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord as recommended by Lord Chaitanya and the deliverers of all the fallen souls. So Lord Chaitanya, he came back 500 years. He appeared 500 years back in Navadvip. And then he introduced this, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now this is nothing new. It is also there in the Vedic literature. He just propagated what is there in the Vedas. So in the Kali Santaran Upanishad, this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is given. And it's recommended that when you want to get out of the cycle of birth and death, then this is the only mantra that will be helpful. Chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the mantra which is recommended by Lord Chaitanya, who is the Yuga avatar. So Yuga avatar means the avatar which comes and establishes Yuga Dharma. And what is Yuga Dharma? Yuga Dharma is nothing but it's the process to stop the cycle of birth and death. So that Yuga Dharma is chanting of the holy name. And the chanting of the holy name, what holy name? This is this 16 word holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when Lord Chaitanya was asked by great Vedic scholar Prakashananda Saraswati why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool, and thus he asked him to chant the holy name of the Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. So, Lord Chaitanya didn't want to show that he is a great scholar. Or otherwise, Lord Chaitanya, before he became sannyasi, when we read his pastimes, we understand that before he took sannyas, he was called as Nimai Pandit, and he has defeated all the great scholars of India by his arguments. So he was a big scholar. Lord Chaitanya was everybody was afraid of him actually. So he was a great Vedic scholar. But when another Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, he asked, so Lord Chaitanya took a humble position. And he said that my spiritual master considers me to be a great fool. Then he asked me to only chant Hare Krishna mantra. So that's why I'm doing it. And when he chanted, he became very much ecstatic like a madman. So Prabhupada in conclusion says, in the age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. Foolish in terms of spiritual knowledge, not in terms of material knowledge. We are very much advanced in material knowledge, but we are foolish. And unless one has this mood that I am full, unless one have to have this mood that I don't know enough about spirituality. Unless we take this position, we will never learn. If I say that I know Bhagavad Gita, then I have closed the door of my understanding. So that's why one has to be open-minded, and one has to take this position that I don't know this Bhagavad Gita. Let me understand from somebody who knows it. So if I say that I know, then whatever knowledge I have, or whatever speculative knowledge I have, that will remain with me, and I'll be in loss, because I'm not going to be, I don't have the keys to open the door of Bhagavad Gita. That's why one has to take a humble position. Accepting that I don't know is a great qualification, is one of the greatest qualification. Accepting that I'm not knowing is taking humble, is a sign of humility. And when somebody is humble, then they can learn. If somebody is proud, they cannot learn. So in the age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated in to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of the Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. So there are offenses given, and if we take care of these offenses and chant the holy name of the Lord, then we get the best results. How can we say that? Because this is given in the Vedas. This is not something invented by Lord Chaitanya. It is given in the Vedas. Vedanta is the last word of Vedic wisdom, and the author and the knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna, and the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. So Vedanta or Vedic knowledge, Krishna is saying that I am the compiler and I am the knower of the Vedas. In 15th chapter, 15th verse is saying this, that after studying Veda, I am to be known, and because I am the compiler and I am the knower of the Veda. And one who knows Krishna and one who chants his name is the highest Vedantist. And this highest Vedantist, actually, he takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. So this is the ultimate purpose, is to know Krishna and chant his name, chant his holy name. And what is his holy name? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when we chant, we are the highest considered from Krishna's point of view, we are the highest Vedantist. So whatever is discussed in the purport is put in this presentation format for you to look into it. And then the next section, Krishna is going to discuss about how one can practice this Karma Yoga. So far, the Krishna was contrasting Karma Yoga and Karma Kanda, and the benefits of doing Karma Yoga over Karma Kanda. And now he is going to talk about how to practice the Karma Yoga. So this is again the purport in the presentation format for you to study. So we'll stop here and then continue in the next session about how to practice Karma Yoga. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.